Today I want to talk about my first car. I had a 1968 Ford Thunderbird with a V8 engine that was a 429 with a four-barrel carburetor. A lot of car. But let's talk about it. I have some fond memories. The original owner of this car was a 16-year-old girl, and that was a birthday present from her dad.
Happy
That's a pretty nice
birthday!
present. When I had it, she had already beaten this thing quite hard, and then it was parked for, I don't know, at least a year, maybe 2 years. And when I was walking home from school, I used to see it parked there with four flat tires, but it still looked appealing to me. And I used to look in the windows and imagine myself driving this car. So I worked hard, saved my money, and then I went over and talked to the guy. And he said $600. And I was very optimistic. I didn't, I could kind of imagine it without the flat tires and with me driving it around and having a good time. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to buy that thing. I don't remember talking to my parents about it, but I do remember that the gentleman that owned the gas station around the corner from my house telling me, yeah, I wouldn't buy it. It's not a good deal. You're going to spend all your money trying to fix it. I did some research on the internet about Ford Thunderbirds and what was the production for the year 1968. It was 64,391 total, and most of those were two doors like mine, but there were some four doors. Not too many. It was 21,925 four doors. And those were kind of neat because they had suicide doors. The back doors opened backwards. And that was kind of a classy feature, but they didn't really sell that well. The one that I was driving was manufactured in Wixom, Michigan. Some of them were manufactured in California, but I lived in Wisconsin, so I'm sure that came from Michigan. The motor in those, most of them had a 429, and mine had a little sticker on it that said Thunderjet, and had a four-barrel carburetor. And this car was big and heavy, over 4,500 pounds. But, that's how America made cars in those days is, well, it's big, it's heavy, we'll just put a big motor in it. And Japan, they had a completely different take on how to do things. They said, let's put the tiny little engine in it, but let's make it efficient, gas efficient, and make a lot of energy from that little motor. But anyhow, that's where America was in that time, 1968. And mine was a fifth generation Thunderbird. And those are sometimes called the glamour birds because it had a lot of luxury features on it. Mine had leather bucket seats, AM FM radio. It was a classy car, hideaway headlights, and had a lot of neat features. The first generation Thunderbird was 1955, and that was a neat little sports car. Two seats and a V8 engine. If you want to see one in action, watch the movie American Graffiti. There's a scene in there with a lady with blonde hair, and she pulls up next to the teenage kid in the movie and kind of waves at him. And he's like, wow, he's smitten by the lady and the car. And the rest of the movie, he's searching for that car. Anyhow, uh, when I bought mine, it was 1978. And what did Ford offer then was a big Thunderbird, and that one was a lot larger. It still had the hideaway headlights. It was a totally different kind of a style of car. What happened to the car that I had? I drove it for around a year, and the gas was killing me. The statistics I found on the internet was saying this is like 11 and a half miles per gallon. And mine wasn't well tuned, so I'm sure I was getting terrible gas mileage. So while I was driving that car, one day I saw a little car of Dodge Dart with a six-cylinder engine with a for sale sign on it, and I bought that for $250. So when I was in high school, I had two cars. So when I bought this car, I was working hard as a teenage kid. I was picking apples at a local farm, and that is hard work. I worked hard, and it must have been like October, maybe November, I bought this car. And all the money I had went to buy the car. But what it needed was four tires and a battery. But I didn't have any money for four tires and a battery. So the snows came in November, and it sat there in the backyard November, December, January, February, March, April, and I would look at that car sometimes with a foot of snow piled up on it, and it was kind of a sad feeling. But when the spring came, I got some more work, I got some more money, and the gas station around the corner. I bought some tires. I wanted some nice wide ones. I didn't have enough money. I bought some narrow ones, but they were tires and they held air. Got the battery in it, and I remember the first time I drove it, it was after school, and I was like, all right, I'm going to take this baby out in the countryside and see what it can do. And putting my foot down on the gas pedal and going faster and faster, watching the speedometer go. And when the 4-barrel carburetor kicks in, that's an exciting sound. It goes, whoa! That's an exciting sound. And I was getting up to 90 and then 100, and I was like, well, I better take my foot off the gas. And it goes, boom, 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 boom. It was like backfiring, and I was coasting, but I was a very happy young kid driving 100 miles an hour on the country road. And after that, I pointed it back towards home and parked it and went back in the house. And I remember driving it to school the next day, and some kids looking at me going, where did you get that car? Because it was a big, fast car. Anyhow, it was a lot of car for a pimple-faced teenage kid, but I have fond memories of my first car. It had a little bit of rust, not too bad, but what was bad was the muffler brackets were all broken and rusted off. So my car was kind of low to the ground because of the bad shocks. And then those mufflers hanging, sometimes if you hit a bump, they would scrape on the ground and sparks would fly. But I thought that was kind of neat. I was a teenage kid. As I was researching the 1968 Ford Thunderbird, I found out about a celebrity that owned one. This is a famous person that bought one brand new at the showroom, and he kept it for many years. He was a television star. And what kind of a show was he on? It was a weekly TV show about people traveling in space. Do you give up? Do you think you know who it is? It was DeForest Kelley who played the role of Dr. McCoy.
And my sick bay is a chamber of horrors.
On Star Trek.
You need advice from me? You must be kidding.
I do not joke, Doctor.
In the 1966, 67, and 68, 69. He bought his in 68 and kept it for many years. I'll put a link to the magazine article that I found. Very interesting to read about him and his car. The author said he was not a real car nut, but he really did love that particular car. Yeah, my car had these sequential tail lights, which was kind of a neat feature that they came out with in about 1965. And instead of just the blinker like blink, blink, it had 3 lights and it went blink, 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 blink. The first time I saw it was on a Mercury Cougar, and I thought, wow, that's pretty neat. But yeah, my car had that. So an interesting story about driving my car is I used to go with my friends into the bigger town down the road about 20, 30 miles. And one day we discovered an exotic food we'd never tasted before. It was a Greek restaurant, and we liked it. And one time we were there, and I was driving, and the 2 guys in the back seat and the guy next to me were all eating plates of Greek food. And I went around a corner real fast, and their food went all over their laps and their shirts. Another story about driving my Thunderbird is one day I was driving along, and the hood flew open on me. I don't know if I just didn't slam it down all the way or what, but I wasn't going that fast. I was going maybe 20 or 30 miles an hour, and all of a sudden the hood came up, and I couldn't see anything. Luckily, I was smart enough to take my foot off the gas and get myself over to the side of the road and stop and slam the hood back down, but the hinges were sprung. After that, that hood never did stay down the way it should. But anyhow, I had a very exciting adventure that day in my Thunderbird. And another story was when I first got the car, I was working as a dishwasher for a short time, and the restaurant was about 10 miles from my house. And the restaurant closed, I don't know, 10 or 11 o'clock, and then I had to finish washing all the dishes and get my T-Bird and drive home. It was dark, and as I got about halfway home, my headlights started getting dimmer and dimmer. And when I got really close to home, the car didn't have enough electricity to run anymore, it just shut off. But I coasted downhill about 2 or 3 blocks, and I made it home. And that was the beginning of electrical problems with my T-Bird. All right, thanks a lot for watching this video. Tune in the future. I'm going to get more videos. I'm thinking I want to interview more people and ask them, hey, what was your first car? Tell me all about it. All right, thanks a lot. Why don't you do me a favor and subscribe?